My friends, the Lord be with you. This is a reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Glory to you, O Lord. Jesus said to his disciples, "A rich man had a steward who was reported to him for squandering his property. He summoned him and said, 'What is this I hear about you? Prepare a full account of your stewardship, because you can no longer be my steward.' The steward said to himself, 'What shall I do, now that my master is taking the position of steward away from me? I'm not strong enough to dig, and I'm ashamed to beg. I know what I shall do, so that when I am removed from the stewardship, they may welcome me into their homes.' He called in his master's debtors one by one. To the first he said, 'How much do you owe my master?' He replied, 100 measures of olive oil.' He said to him, 'Here's your promissory note. Sit down and quickly write one for 50. And to another the steward said, 'And you, how much do you owe?' He replied, 100 cores of wheat.' The steward said to him, 'Here is your promissory note. Write one for 80. And the master commended that dishonest steward for acting prudently. For the children of this world are more prudent in dealing with our own generation than are the children of light. I tell you, make friends for yourselves with dishonest wealth, so that when it fails, you'll be welcomed into eternal dwellings. The person who is trustworthy in very small matters is also trustworthy in great ones. And the person who is dishonest in very small matters is also dishonest in great ones. If therefore you are not trustworthy with dishonest wealth, who will trust you with true wealth? If you are not trustworthy with what belongs to another, who will give you what is yours? No servant can serve two masters. He will either hate one and love the other, or be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and mammon." My friends, the gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. All right, we're going to step away from the church for a few minutes. We're going into Detisch's Doctoral Institute on Mathematics. You thought my brother was the academic one in the family. Not at all. Hope you brought your calculators with you. Do they still use those, by the way? I know I'm locked in the 80s, but still. Okay, we've all heard of Bill Gates, the founder of Microsoft. The most recent figures I could find is that Bill Gates' net worth is $105 billion. For those who think that my personal worth is close to that, you're sadly mistaken. You're off by about 105 billion. So let's look at that. $1 billion is $1,001 million. Okay? $1,001 million. So then $105 billion is $105,001 million. The entire budget of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is a mere $80 billion. So Bill Gates' worth is, what, 30-some thousand, 20-some thousand more than that, 20-some billion dollars more than that. Everybody with me, the size of this? The massive wealth of Bill Gates is so astounding. Its numbers are far too magnificent for any one of us to even remotely understand. So astounding that I think for him, money no longer has any value. When you can pull out your wallet and practically purchase anything at all at any time in your life for the rest of your life, money really has no more value. His worth is just too massive. It's like he doesn't even need any more money anymore, ever again. But I think the person of Bill Gates is what has become the true wealth. He and his wife Melinda have just celebrated their 25th wedding anniversary. Many years ago, Bill and Melinda had decided to share their wealth with the world. The Gates Foundation is guided by the belief that every life has equal value, where they state that we believe that the path out of poverty begins when the next generation can access quality health care and a great education. That's their goal. They have offices in Seattle, Washington, D.C., India, China, London, Berlin, Ethiopia, Nigeria, and South Africa, with about 1,500 employees. Through 2018, they have given grants exceeding $50 billion, giving grants in all 50 states and in 138 countries. I don't know anything about Bill Gates' religious beliefs, and he seems to have stayed above the fray politically. But all in all, thousands upon thousands of people have been blessed because of the goodwill of this very wealthy couple, who have managed to stay together so far for at least a quarter of a century. Jesus did say once, "It is easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven." Now, if you notice, Jesus never said it was impossible. I don't pretend to know the mind or heart of God. I believe that God has a very special place in his kingdom for Bill and Melinda Gates, for they have honored God's people through the gifts that God has given to them. That's discipleship. Jesus had just addressed the Pharisees and the scribes, challenging them to change their lives through the parable of the prodigal son. Now, today, he turns his attention back to his disciples, the ones who will be given his mission once they get to Jerusalem for his passion, death, and resurrection. Now, Luke is the only gospel writer that has Jesus giving today's parable, obviously addressing a need in Luke's community to properly share the gifts that God has given, especially with the weak and the poor. In the time of Jesus, a steward was an agent for the Lord and Master who did all the business work for him. He kept the books, and he received a commission by charging interest. Well, the note on the loan indicated the amount to be paid back, not the interest. So in the parable, Jesus said that the steward was reported to the master for squandering his property, recalling the action of the younger son in this prodigal son parable. So in this parable, when the steward writes down the notes to the debtors, he's giving up his own share of the money. He isn't shortchanging his master, the rich man. He got back what was owed. The steward basically gave away his own pay. The parable really isn't about dishonesty. It's about being creative to store up treasures for the future. In a rather strange and roundabout way, Jesus is challenging his disciples that in the world that they will soon face, with so much that's going to come at them, so much coming against them, they will need to be crafty and creative and strong enough to prepare themselves and the people of God for heavenly treasure, what is to come, not earthly. He wanted them all to realize and understand that in the kingdom of his Father, money will have no value. Earthly wealth will be worthless and useless, and all the money in the world will mean nothing in the glory of God. Jesus wanted all of his disciples, then and in the future, to use whatever God gives to them, whether it's pittance or massive amounts of wealth. Use what God gives to them and give God the glory by taking care of those who need it the most. Life and all that God puts in it is to be shared so that all may have hope, all may feel his presence and his love, and all may have treasure in heaven. Bill and Melinda Gates, worth $105 billion, live by the mission of their foundation. Every life has equal value. Powerful words to be lived by the richest and the poorest of God's people. When we stand before God to be judged, he's not going to say, John, how much are you worth? I believe he's going to ask, John, how have you loved? And exactly how did you take care of my people? I wish you God's peace.